It's not easy at all to have an Arabic hip-hop label in Lebanon, but it's about the long journey, really. I would say that, and my dad's always said that, so I thank him for that. I had dropped out, and obviously I was shunned from my circles, and everybody was like, really, you're gonna drop out of school and go do music? But yeah, I'm not like a cult leader or anything like that.
Welcome to the Afikra Quartertones podcast. My name is Mikey Mhenna. With us today is Blu Fiefer, who is a Lebanese-Mexican artist, music producer, and director, approaching her art as a multifaceted platform. Today, Blu readies her debut album, Villain Bala Cause, which is inspired by the traditions of storytelling and testimony captured in hip-hop while paying tribute to Arabic music. Blu, welcome to Afikra.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. What a beautiful intro.
Yeah, it's fun introducing people who I know in real life. And so it's kind of cool to take a moment and actually like talk to you seriously about the work that you're doing and where you are now. So here's my first question. Do you remember when you started to actually think of yourself as a professional musician? Do you remember when that clicked?
When you say professional musician, what does that mean? I mean, because I've lived a lot of lives, and I don't know what you mean by professional musician. I dropped out of school when I was 14, 15, and I went to pursue music. I started by studying music and learning about all the disappointments that comes with it. And then I started working like in events or weddings, or, you know, I've done my fair share of, but I would say, I think when I went to study music was the first, because I had given everything up and I had dropped out, and obviously I was shunned from my circles, and everybody was like, really, you're gonna drop out of school and go do music. So this is really when I like switched my life completely. I think this was the first moment where I was just starting to consume myself as that person pursuing that. Before that, it was always kind of a secret, and you know, I wasn't the girl that would like sing in the plays or make mute, like, you know, I was very like, it was like my little secret that I want to do art, and you know,
yeah,
I got to do it, which is really a beautiful thing, I get to say.
When did that transition actually happen? Was there an event that was like, oh, okay, I actually have something to say and I want to do it publicly?
Deciding to really leave everything to pursue music, even if my first, you know, my expectations weren't always, you know, you learn how to set certain expectations, and you really do fail and fall a lot. And I don't really have like a reference to someone that's done what I'm doing or want to be doing. So it took me a long time to, like, I always fought to get to the point where I was just really doing this full time, and I'd be able to, you know, maybe just live from it and have like cards to play with and get up every day and work at this. So like I've been pursuing it for a bit, since I was 14, 15 when I moved to London by myself, and that was something. But every day there's a new realization, you know, like I get to do this. Like I get to wake up and have a team and give them tasks and go to battles with things and say yes to this and no to this and ups and downs. Like that's just always what I wanted, to make a life out of making art. So I still pinch myself a lot.
Yeah. What you know, what's different about your work these days compared to going back to when I first became acquainted with your work in sort of 2018? If you were to sort of compare a day in the life as an artist in 2018, 2019 to 2023, 5 years later, what's sort of different about your day-to-day?
Completely different in every sense. I live a completely different life now. I think when I had met you, that was, you know, pre-revolution, pre-explosion, just everything changing. And even me, I think I was making English music at the time. I still didn't release any of the like Arabic stuff I was working on. But yeah, completely. I mean, building the label now and making music, that for me is a really important part of my story and my country and everything that has happened since, which I feel like the past, those years that you're talking about, I think have shaped me the most, the end of my 20s were really, I went to war with them, and I've grown a lot. So I think I'm more me now. I'm more me. I feel like I have more power like within myself, and it's reflected, across my life. And having the label and the team is, I mean, it's what I do 80% of the time. I get up, manage the label, try to get things going, try to keep us afloat, come up with ideas for the music. We work with other artists, how we're putting out my album. And then like a small portion of that, I get to be an artist. But I've been spending a lot of my time kind of setting up the infrastructure for everything that's happening now, and systems and a lot of admin stuff and
Yeah.
training people, and in trying to inspire people every day to like have that drive. And I've been lucky to be surrounded by a good team that really believes in what we do, because it's not easy at all to have an Arabic hip hop label in Lebanon. It's like the most challenging thing you can choose to do. It's such a, but we're all really passionate, so it's great. My life is yeah, exactly what I wanted it to be before. So
Yeah.
I'm proud I get to say that, even though it's not perfect or easy. I'm not, you know what I mean?
What does it mean to have an independent label? So for those who don't know, your label is called Mafi Budget, which is like,
Which stands for there's no budget,
yeah,
right? Which is the running joke here. Nobody has budgets.
yeah,
And we don't have budgets either, but I mean, I think it's a commentary on a lot of things culturally.
yeah. I love it, and it also like speaks to your incessant humor. Your songs, your art is always hilarious and in this sort of like subversive way. But I want to ask about this idea. What does it actually look like to run an independent label based out of Lebanon? Because I'm sure it means many things that I expect, but I'm sure it means many, many things that I wouldn't be able to predict. So what does it actually look like?
Can you be specific?
Yeah, I mean, for somebody
yeah.
who doesn't work in the music industry, we hear terms like labels, but in 2023, what does that actually look like? What does a label do? An independent label, what does this organization even do?
Yeah, I get it. So I want to start off by saying that like whatever I'm going to describe of what our flow at the label looks like is not necessarily what other labels look like. And, the business module is still something that we're figuring out, because we really like to do things without anybody telling us how to do it. So it's hard to get money to do things because of that also. But we are just coming up with a hybrid model. So basically it is a music label mainly, which focuses on Arabic hip-hop across the MENA region. We're based in Lebanon. We have a content creation department. We've done all my stuff. Well, it started with, I was doing a lot of the work DIY myself, which is the spirit of Mafi Budget. And eventually for it to be sustainable, like, okay, I could release one project, that was great, but I couldn't consistently release things because I was always burning out. And, I do the production and the recording and the mixing and the directing and the editing and the coloring, and I was doing all that myself. So just growing hands and legs was really important to allow me to to try to be a consistent artist, doing things, releasing music, coming up with projects that are cool for the culture as well. So yeah, we have a content creation team, and we distribute music through our partnership with Believe. So we also have like projects or artists signed for distribution specifically. What else? Yeah, and actually we have what I call a corporate department of the label, which we're trying to develop a little bit more now, because that's we want to be able to make profit and reinvest in the creative projects and reinvest in the music, and it's really challenging to do that. Like it's really challenging. Yeah, so we're always trying to hack it. We're always trying to see how we can like work with more people, how we can get more funds for things. Sometimes we don't, and a lot of people really crazy how much they pull together because they're really excited about the projects. And when we do, it's really cool to like hire and work with the people that you actually want to work with, to deliver for brands that we really like, or brands that kind of want what we're presenting. So it's that's been really fun too. It's been a learning experience for me because I do manage the team and on the daily as well. So I'm like always coming up with systems on how to make everything better, and then we get to take that knowledge and put it in the more creative stuff, like how do we come up with systems to keep making music videos, to keep making the process of producing and recording and mixing and masterings and deadlines and setting up things so that it's faster, so it doesn't take a billion years each time, and like just trying to build the ecosystem, because there really isn't a reference for us to look at, that I don't think it's been done in the way that we're trying to do it before. And yeah, we're learning, we're growing. I love it.
Is that unique? Is that story unique to hip hop in the Arab world? Do you feel like if you look back at sort of the 90s, the alternative scene, like what Soap Kills was trying to do in the 90s and stuff like that, even before then, are there other, is this sort of just a latest incarnation that's a little different sonically, but the hustle is the same? Like if you're speaking to people from that time, are you like, the hustle's basically the same?
No, I mean, yes, it's not the hustle is not, I don't think, dependent on the genre, as long as you're talking about independent MENA music. So
Yeah.
I don't even think it's necessarily like hip hop, it can be like you're talking about Soap Kills or even what Zed Hamdan is doing now, like Adonis, like independent, non-mainstream pop, polished kind of music. Yes, the hustle is the same, but back in the day when you had this come up of you mentioned Zed Hamdan, because I guess that's one of the first few references of independent music. It like I started being involved in the scene like 15 years ago, and it's that started a few years before I got involved, and like there isn't like cards to play. There aren't like like you really have to make each opportunity yourself. There isn't like an industry that's built around independent music, especially at the time. Now I think like it's more on the come up, and it's like a really exciting wave. It's still not like, oh my God, this is, especially not in Lebanon. I mean, if you compare it to Egypt, I feel like they've really crossed over and built a business, or are building a business around it. So there are more cards to play now, which is really exciting. But yeah, the hustle is across, I think, all independent art that I've spoken to in the MENA scene.
Yeah, it's funny because like the cliche is always, well, it's the music business, and so music is not enough. There's like the music side, and then the business side is part of it, right? And so, like 15 years ago, there was music, but there wasn't like an independent music business, and now it's kind of like beginning to flourish.
I mean, I don't know if I'm getting what you're saying right, but I mean, like, it really depends what you want out of it. There are people that don't want to turn music into a business and are really passionate about like just doing that, and that's totally fine, like
Yeah.
I want to be able to take everything that I've worked so hard on to learn and go through, and really like failing a lot and learning a lot, and digging into each situation of like how can I do this better, how can I do this more sustainably. Like, sorry, I lost my train of thought
It's okay.
completely. Completely, like not even, where were we?
We were talking about sort of the music business, and
Oh yeah,
what I
yeah,
was trying to say
saying,
was
sorry,
that,
sorry. I was
yeah,
saying,
go
yeah,
ahead.
just to finish my thoughts. Sorry to interrupt you. I was saying I want to take that and turn it into like I believe that I can make it happen, where I can come up with a module that I get to really create without being censored and without responding to like no fucking suits, and dominating that, and being able to make corporate money, to be able to reinvest in that. Like, I want to make this into a business. I want to make jobs in this industry, in this genre. Like, I believe in that. That's not necessarily everyone's path. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's funny because when we first met, there, that hustler side of you is so obvious, right? That you're interested in not only the artistic side, which is obvious, it's there, but you're also interested in like, no, I'm a business person. I'm interested in figuring out the commerce end of it, and how to, whether it's selling records or getting downloads or putting together campaigns, like that side of it was very clearly something that
Yeah.
you had a knack for and an interest in developing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really ambitious, and also like I have dreams for my family, and I want to make that happen through music. And I even for me, the marketing side of a piece of art, which for me is part of the story, is just an art like the music. Like it's really for me how people experience the song you've been working on for so long, or the video, like the way they see it, their impression with it, their relationship to it is so important to me. Like I spend so much time and consideration as to how this ties into this whole story and how this is going to bring them to this world, you know, and that's called marketing as well. And I don't think it's at least from my perspective, I don't think it's at the cost of the authenticity of the work. Like I'm still saying, like, yes, I'm trying to sell it, but I'm still saying what I believe in, and totally uncensoring myself and talking about things that like not many people have talked about in music in Lebanon, you know? So being authentic and being able to spin it are both, I feel like I am the right person to bring those two together, as opposed to just thinking like, oh, if you want to commercially cross over or make money from this or live from this, you have to adhere to a certain mold. I don't like, I'm completely rejecting that for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you were talking to a younger version of you, like 10 years ago, 5 years into the game, it's so funny. Every time I talk to you about the past, you always have this look on your face like, oh,
Haram.
haram.
She suffered a lot.
So what would you say to this girl, right? Like, ghost of Christmas past, you go back in time, you're like this hovering, you're a vision to her, right? 10 years ago. It's 2013. You're 5 years into the game. What is she struggling with, and what advice would you give her?
You know, it's really emotional to answer actually, because when I think about it, I look back and I imagine like just telling her like you're doing like exactly what you need to be doing. Like don't focus too, like don't get it too much into each fail and win. Like keep moving. It's really important for you to keep moving. At the same time, this is what my dad was telling me always. You know, like it's I'm realizing that now. Like he would always just say, keep moving and keep moving, and he'd just be like, get up and let's go. Like how can we help again? How can we help you think? Like, and so many of the things that I've built, like the foundation of everything that I'm building now really was built through so many years of learning and Amjad failing. I really do have to say that again, because I know for a fact like how many people are aspiring artists, and maybe they, you know, they don't have access to seeing like what happens behind the scenes, or they think that if somebody's on the come up now, like I'm starting to be on the come up in some way, which is not at all something that happened overnight, or you know what I mean. Like this, I really had to learn so much and pay my dues in that way, and do like hundreds of shows and work hundreds of weddings, and like really put the work in to be better. It's not even like for anybody to give me a chance. I always thought it was about like, oh, this person giving me a chance, or this door opening, or this deal coming. Like it was never about that. Those things come and go, and opportunities come and go, but it's about like the discipline that you build for yourself, the decision making at everything, at every step that you're making. How can I learn from this? Like that's the most important. Like how can I do this faster next time? How can I do this better? How can I manage my emotions better in these situations? Because obviously I'm going to be in those situations so many, like really learning to become the person that can live this life and wake up and live it every day. It's not about hacking it with one song or one deal. Haram, this is what we think as artists, like this label is going to come and sign it, like especially back in the day, you know. And it's really not like that. It's about becoming the person that you need to become to live that life, to produce the type of music you want to be producing, to be the person you want to be presented to people, and the rest kind of starts magically
Yeah.
falling into place bit by bit, which is, I didn't have that before. It was like working so hard and putting my hopes on like each thing that I did, which because I'm a perfectionist, like it made things beautiful, and I would try to make every show epic, you know. But it's about the long journey, really. I would say that, and my dad's always said that, so I thank him for that.
Amazing. Okay, I want to listen to the first interlude because I want to listen to some of the music, and then we're going to talk about it. So we asked you before the event to pick a few interludes. The first one is Sharaf. Tell us a little bit about why you chose this interlude for us to check out.
So Sharaf was the first song that was released from my album in, I think, 2021, which is a long time ago, and I still haven't released the full length of my album. But this was, I wanted it to release it first because I had done Baalbak and I had premiered it then, so I really wanted to put it out around the same time. And in this chapter, so my album it's a story and it's chapters that are chronological. This is why they're numbered. You know how you can see 0, 2, and then, yeah. So in this chapter, I'm confessing to, I don't know, I don't like to really pinpoint it, but I'm confessing to going towards a new direction and deciding to let go of myself, or maybe confessing to my sins or something that I'm going to do or something that I've done. And there's, Sharaf translates to honor, and there's a layer of, how you decide to do things, like after the circumstances in Lebanon and everything that has happened. I think everybody's values and judgment has changed just because we all have to survive. So this was really inspired by that.
All right, let's listen to a little bit and then we'll talk about it more.
رصاصة مختومة ضميري مدفون يا أمي سمعيني مشكلتي زايلة حساباتي طويلة وهالسرقة وسيلة الحياة نصيب والقدر مكتوب في طرف مدينتي لقيت الشمس بالليل حمل قلبي عيدة سمع الشرطة عالباب بعد مرة وبرتاح واصلة عراحة البال عالحاجز ما في سؤال هالمرة ما في إرسال احنا عيلتنا شريس اصلا لو مرتاح عبيد رصاصة مختومة ضميري مدفون يا امي سامحيني مشكلتي زايلة حساباتي طويلة هالسرقة وسيلة حياة نصيب والقدر مكتوب
دايما وقت بس عشان اتأسف كان ينشف قلبي ويبكي وجهه كنت عن طبعي وكانت تزعل مني وبتفهم مرض استوعبتني زي ما انا فبترضى والله بضحك هلا كيف هيك كنت اهبل اللي بضحك اكتر اني مفكر حالي او انا ضايع بلاك يمه عربي بمصري فرنسا كيمياء احنا وكل ما ببرد بأسى صورة ايام انسى النوم ايام بس نايم زمان قعد لليوم اليوم قاعد بمبارح انا بس على الورق مهاجر وبالعنشد مغامر وبس الله اللي بيعرف وين رايح من الاخر حابب تكون سائل قديش كان شانسي عاطل مش كيف هيك هاد ناجح صوتي بدانك حافر عرفت اخت الحافز تعلمت من انا وصغير كيف اسوي من الخيال حياة بكره رح تسمعني بذاكرتك فرح اضل الاخير على المعنى محافظ ولا تنسى حب المرة بشرفك هذا الراب مثل الثورة فعل دائم
نحنا عيلتنا شريسة عالسلام وارتاح حبيب رصاصة مختومة ضميري مدفون يا أمي سمعيني مشكلتي زايلة حساباتي طويلة هالسرقة وسيلة حياة نصيب والقدر مكتوب
Blue, what's it like watching this? It was funny. I was looking at you as you were watching it. Are you over analyzing? Are you getting sort of frustrated with it? Are you like bathing in the final product? Are you looking like, ugh, that color grade isn't right? I would change that. How do you feel watching this?
Usually, yes. Actually, there are there are always things, but actually, I haven't watched it in a little bit, like in a minute. But because I'm building the rest of the chapters, and the story kind of came along so much after, like the rest of the story and the plot and how it starts and how the album ends came after I had done that. But this fits so, like watching it now after I've had distance from the details of editing and what came through and what didn't, or like those details, I'm like, wow, it really fits with the character and the character development. Like I'm like really proud we did that, and it's really nice. A lot of people worked very hard on that. I'm very proud of it.
Who are your references? Who are you sort of referring to in this? Let's just talk about the visuals. So for anyone listening to the podcast, I highly recommend going to YouTube and watching the video clip, because it's really visually stunning. Who do you think you're referencing in it?
There isn't, like, myself. No, not. No, wait. Okay, that's completely taken out of context that way. I had a Kanye moment. I inspire myself. No, but I mean, like, I'm obviously inspired by everything around me, anything that makes me feel anything, or anything that has had an impact on me.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a thing where I think, like, what is my main source of inspiration? I think I'm getting to the point where I just naturally kind of channel things that have influenced me, and I think I'm kind of have my sound a little bit more together right now. Like I feel like I have my own sound, or even visually there's a certain identity and storytelling that I think now is way more natural, now that I don't really even have to think that much about that. Just becomes my print. But I'm really inspired by I can be inspired by anything. It's crazy. Like sometimes the smallest thing, and sometimes nothing, sometimes I'll just be like, I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So funny. Can you talk a little bit about the songwriting? Like, how do you put something like this together? Are you somebody who starts with a beat and sort of a instrumental? Are you humming to yourself? Do you start with an idea? Do you start with the title, Sharaf, and you're like, okay, I got it. Now I got to work backwards. Does it start with a specific phrase, and you're like, yeah, how did this one come together?
Yeah, so actually, it definitely can be different with every song, but with this album, so I produced it myself, I composed it myself and arranged and everything. I co-wrote the songs with other writers. We'd have writing sessions. The way that I did almost the full album musically with no lyrics or anything, but just like all the production, pretty much that way, the way you're hearing it, before I like a year and a half before I could write, or like a year before I could write on it. So I was like, really had the music very clear in my mind and very defined, and I had the names. Some of them changed. Sharaf stayed. It sounded like, with the trumpets and the brass section, there was this announcement I kept feeling in the song. There was something being announced. So and then actually so the music comes to me first. Being a producer for me definitely comes before being like a writer or a singer or those hats that I would wear. But it was really clear, to me what I wanted to write. So when I would get together with my co-writers who were my friends or rappers or like other producers, everything would be like, I would tell them the story and the title and even the references that I'd want to make and what I'm going through, or I have to separate myself from that when I'm in that environment. But I would, things would get personal sometimes, and then we'd write the lyrics, or we'd write a bunch of lines or things like that, and then I'd go, in my cocoon by myself. I like to work alone a lot. At the same time, mostly I've worked alone, and kind of just put everything together and trip on it and like make, just like I get consumed by it until I pop it out of the machine. But it usually starts with the music, yeah.
Do you like producing? Not by production, I don't mean making the instrumentals. That side of the production, it sounds like you really love. But I mean,
I love it.
Do you like producing other rappers? where they're in the room and you're like,
Yeah.
hey, tap into this, tap into this. What does that feel like?
I do. I really like producing for other people. So I've produced for other artists. I've produced for films. I've produced for like documentaries and ads and like things like that. I really enjoy all those things, even like producing for ad. Like there's something to me about like getting a brief and nailing it, you know, sonically. And I asked all the questions to understand what they want. And like, it's a really nice challenge for me.
Yeah.
And I really do like working with other people. And I invested a lot of effort last year to collaborate with more people and more artists and stuff. But you know, I really developed I'm self-taught, and I developed myself right here in this corner by myself for like the longest time, and I wouldn't let anyone in and I wouldn't let anyone hear it, and I was really like just really needed to figure out my own self, and I had a really bad experience working with other people, predominantly men, and I just wanted to be by myself in a safe space and teach myself how to do all those things so I wouldn't have to depend on anybody. So it's really important for me to keep my studio a safe space and to really like, because it's such a sensitive thing. I feel like for me, I'm like so open and vulnerable and when I'm making music, and I feel like it needs to be that way for me to get anywhere in the flow. So there are people that I'd like to collaborate with, but if there's no, like, sometimes we just don't, like, we don't have the same process or the same flow, and I'll be like, I can't. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it really has to be right. And even people, like, I really believe collaboration has to happen from, like, a really genuine place. Sometimes it can happen by, like, introduction or somebody reaching out to you, but I always prefer it when it's, like, I'll get to know somebody, and I know so many artists I've never asked to collaborate with, or, you know, I kind of just, we get to know each other. We spend years sometimes just texting, or it's important for me to have. And sometimes you meet somebody and you just click with them from the first time they come into the studio. But that's the most important part for me, because the rest will flow much easier. But sometimes it gets complicated, and I'm like, I have to say, like, this is not, like, I can't create like that, you know. So it's
Yeah.
different, because I'm used to working by myself for like a producer for myself as an artist. So it's always a great learning, like, experience for me to work with other rappers and to tell them what I've been telling myself in my head, or to give them that kind of motivation in the mic, or when they're stuck somewhere, like, I know what to say because I've said it, like, to myself, you know.
Yeah. You know, when we think about, like, let's just talk about, like, global hip hop for a second, right? Each geography kind of over time develops its own sound, right? And sometimes they have multiple sounds, but, like, you know, you can hear hip hop from New York, or hip hop from London, or hip hop from LA or Atlanta or New Orleans or Chicago, and they all kind of have a different sound to them. Do you feel like Beirut and Lebanon has a very specific sound that's maybe different than Egypt, for example? Because you mentioned Egypt earlier.
You mean in hip hop specifically?
Hip hop specifically, yeah.
Not fully yet, no. Like, not comparing to Egypt, no, I don't think so. I think Egypt has really done a great job in, like, dominating their own sound, their own thing, and crossing it over. And they do have a specific sound, to the point where, like, you have, like, now there's a generation of people who are, you know, like, imitating like, it's really become a big thing. I don't think we have that here that much. We do have, like, we have a lot of identity. That's not what I mean. We have identity in music, but I don't feel it's as shaped and as specific as other countries necessarily. And you know, Egypt is what are they, like, 60, 90 million? I'm sorry, I'm forgetting the number, but it's like
20
insane.
times the size. Or like 15
Yeah,
times
and we're
the size.
4 to 6, 7 million people. So it's a completely different landscape in terms of, like, the people that are doing this and people who are trying to do this, and the amount of venues and the amount of, like, it's a small place, but it's a very specific kind of, I mean, I honestly, I love it here. I love it here. You know what I mean? It's just very fresh still, and I think could use a lot of development, especially sonically. You know, it's really, always on the lookout of, like, who's doing what, and, like, if there's a new artist, and how we can, you know,
Is
we
that
need
part
more
of your
people to
ambition?
be able to do it.
Is that kind of part of your ambition, to be like, all right, I'm going to be the sound. I want, when people think of hip hop from Lebanon, they think of Mafi Budget. They think of the sound that we are sort of chasing.
It's not a matter of, I don't see it as a matter of dominating, as in I want to be the one and only reference. But I want to be able to present our own flavor at the forefront of it, which is what we do, or what
Yeah.
what I produce, what we produce at the label. But I think what we're doing is very specific and unique to our own vision, and our own experience.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of like competition. It's a matter of like, we are Mafi Budget. I am Blue. Even if there's like 10 more other amazing, people in collective doing things. I want more people to be doing this. I want that.
Yeah. All right, let's listen to the second interlude. So the people who can't see the screen, tell us why you chose this.
Okay, so this is 04, Nazele Big Champagne, from my album as well. This is one of the big focus singles of the album. And in this chapter, it's my most recent single. I put it out, I don't know, like a month and a half ago or so. It was our biggest production to date. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. And shooting this was like the magnet, like it was bigger than anything I had done. And I really, it was, everybody like went really hard for it, and I think it showed. I directed this, and I co-directed with George from my label. We edited it together. Yeah, I love it. In this chapter, it's post-betrayal, and I'm kind of like lost in the myself and in the club and in the everything that is around me, and I'm trying to drown my sorrows and look like a badass before I decide what my next move is.
I can't wait. Okay, let's watch it.
فوضى بداخلي الصوت ولا الصدى عالشقق بلي هون ما في حدا مني عارفة حالي وين أنا عارفة حالي وين أنا عايشة بين شخصين شوف بتحكي through the pain بس نزلي بيك شامبين أنا عارفة حالي وين أنا عايشة بين شخصين شوف بتحكي through the pain بس نزلي بيك شامبين أنا عارفة حالي وين أنا عايشة بين شخصين شوف بتحكي through the pain بس نزلي بيك شامبين إذا مش أنا مين حيمشيها حساباتي من غيري صفيها مشاكلي بغنيها حياتي بفيها روحي ترجف وأنا أجرب دفيها كم سؤال جوا راسي كم جواب كم محباب كم عتاب على الورق كم كتاب دوي ناري كسعد راسي وعلى خوف إني لب باخد طاري بهدوم ناري بس للماضي ضل عالباب هربانة من حالي لحالي هربانة من حالي لحالي هربانة فوضى بداخلي الصوت ولا الصدى عالشقق بلي هون ما في حدا مني عارفة حالي أنا عارفة حالي وين أنا عايشة بين شخصين شوف بتحكي through the pain بس نزلي بيك شامبين أنا عارفة حالي وين أنا عايشة بين شخصين شوف بتحكي through the pain بس نزلي بيك شامبين أنا عارفة حالي وين أنا عايشة بين شخصين شوف بتحكي through the pain بس نزلي بيك شامبين أنا حالي وين أنا بين شخصين أنا through the pain أنا بيك شامبين أنا حالي وين أنا بين شخصين أنا through the pain أنا بيك شامبين أنا حالي وين أنا بين شخصين أنا through the pain أنا بيك شامبين أنا
Amazing. So something like that.
What do you think?
What do I think?
I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah.
I haven't asked you that.
I have thoughts for sure. It's amazing the difference between, first of all, the production is incredible. And I totally can see how much effort and energy was put into it. And also how much fun was had. You guys are clearly enjoying yourselves, like thinking super creatively, trying to be super fun, and play with tons of different ideas. It's also cool to see sonically how different everything is, you know? And I feel like I can feel you spreading out and be like, all right, let's try a little bit of this. Let's try a little bit of this. Is that how it feels for you? Were you like, all right, no barriers. I don't care what people think I sound like. I'm just going to try a bunch of different stuff. Is that how it felt putting the album together?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think about people in that sense. I mean, they're so very different, and this is why I really see them as clear, different chapters, because I feel like they each have such an identity that's so cinematic and just if you hear the music even alone, there's like so many images and it's so colorful, and you have strings and I love it's not like a simple type beat kind of production. But I really do think it sounds like one universe, in a way, you know, even though it's very different. So it's great to get to the point, this is something that money can't buy. You spend most of your life trying to come up with your identity, and for that to be effortless this way. Yeah.
Do you, as you're putting this together, are you thinking sort of strategically about the performance and the tour and be like, all right, what would actually be fun to sing live? Are you thinking through that stuff, both also just the sonics of it, but also what would be fun to just be jumping up and down singing with, 1,000 people?
Yeah, no, I should do that. What happens is that I don't think about that at all. And then I get like Sint El Ew is so fast, impossible to do live, because I spent 3 years in quarantine in the studio, and I had done all 10 years of shows or 12 years of shows before that.
Yeah.
I really, in this album, I really went into just music making and discovering myself and spending years really in the studio, grinding on how I want to do this and how I want to say this. And it was not at all. I really didn't listen that much to people's opinion in that sense. I would always want to hear people's opinion of how they would I'd show a song to somebody, and then I would take what they would say and think about if that's what I want them to feel, whether they like it or not. This is my guide in that way. It's not are they gonna like it or do they? I'm in the position that I'm in terms of being the creator of my music. And so in that sense, I really do have a responsibility towards being authentic, and I really like to be innovative, and I like to bring so many contrasting sounds together and these big hip hop beats, but with strings or an electronic arpeggiator or something. This is what I like to do. It's not definitely not referenced ever. I don't have a brief, or I listen to a song and I say I want to make something like that. After the album, I think I'll do that, just for the being in a more fun space, less serious, less album mode. I think that's great. But I really didn't think about, but actually in the process, after the music's done and I had my first show back in Paris, and then I went to Dubai. Then we came back and I did 3 shows here in Beirut in December. I got to test out so much of this music that I had never played live ever, and I I had been listening to it for 3 years, and and it was my first time.
You're what are the
using
lyrics again?
Auto-tune live, and no, really, it was all the things that I didn't think about, and each show taught me so much. But the album is such a universe filled with moments. There's a very clear storyline for me. So it's really exciting now to be in the phase where I'm thinking about the show and how I'm going to tie everything together and how to make it a whole experience and to really connect with the audience. But I didn't think of it at all at the time,
It's so interesting. I heard this interview with Kanye, I don't know, 15 years ago, where he was talking about after his second album, he went on tour with U2, and specifically to see what it looks like to write songs for arenas. And he was like, my songs are club songs and theater songs, and they sound great in clubs and theaters. They sound great on music videos. But like, how do you write songs for a theater? And so he specifically went on tour with U2 so he could be like, I want to see what this looks like. And that was the album before Graduation. And all his songs on Graduation, all his big songs were like super anthemic. And they were all, it was like a challenge.
True.
And he was like, all right, this is a challenge. I want songs that sound good in a stadium, in arenas, you know, all of the lights and all that type of stuff, you know. It's interesting. It's kind of cool to think about.
Definitely. And the more you go, like, the more you, like, even taking a song live and seeing what people are singing along to and what moment they respond to more does make me go back after to the studio and include that in my thought. Like, it really does come with a lot of, like, you have to go through it a lot to be able to, you know, get to that point and really become like, it's not just people are watching me perform. It's like a moment that you're creating for yourself and the audience. And it's challenging. It's really hard to do that sometimes, you know. It's challenging to put yourself out there. And, you know, I do the pole dancing part in the show as well. So the first, like, time being back was in December, and I hadn't done that for years, and I hadn't trained for years either. It's really vulnerable, you know, but
sure.
But I'm good at it, and I enjoy doing it, and I think we can do it much better, and every time it's getting better. So I love the show aspect of things. Yeah.
Okay, I want to get to Sint El Ew.
Sint El Ew.
Sint El Ew. Sorry, excuse me.
Ew.
There you go.
Yeah. Ew.
But I want you to answer before you talk about this question. Before you talk about the video. This song went so viral when it came out, and I wonder what it was like at the time for you, because I mean, excuse my ignorance, I don't remember you having the type of sort of notoriety where people would like come up to you and be like, hey, oh my God, you're the girl from blank. But I feel like after this song, you were the girl from blank, right?
Yeah. No, I had been in my old life under my old name. I had been that girl for a while, and I had steered away from it for a long time. But this definitely changed things, changed my career, changed how. But it was quarantine, so for the longest time, I wasn't even going out. You know, this was 2020.
All the fame was wasted.
No, it was, because it really was. But then after, when I had put that out, and then I had put maybe one more song out, like Sharaf, and then we started going out and places started opening, and I was like, oh, a lot has happened since the last time I've been out. This is really like a nice, just a nice reminder that people are listening and that we're reaching people and that our work is not going to waste. So I really did feel it. Sint El Ew was life-changing. Sint El Ew was the first kind of song, my first proper release that I had done in Arabic, and I had written it with my friends in quarantine. We adapted Ghassan Rahbani's Sint El Ew.
Yeah.
It was really hard to be writing about anything else at the time. I was making a bunch of music, but zero writing. Like, I was like, what are we going to talk about? Everything's on fire. Nobody knows what the fuck's happening, what's going to happen tomorrow. Like, we've just been through so much trauma. Like, it was really hard for me to artistically how to maneuver. And this was the only thing that we, kind of ended up working on. And it felt like the right time also to document what was happening in Lebanon in that year, I knew that it was, had virality potential or whatever, because it was, quite political. And I had studied this video a lot. Like, I edited it myself, and I think I had like 42 cuts because I had finished the edit. We shot it on iPhone, drove around Lebanon and shot it on iPhone, and I took the footage and I researched the archive for months. And it was a very funny, kind of even funnier than, I don't know if you think it's funny. A lot of people think it's funny, but if you saw the first version, it was much more comedic. And then the explosion happened, and then I couldn't see it or touch it for like a month.
Yeah.
or more, like 40 days. Yeah. And then I was like, what? I've been working on this all year. I don't think it's appropriate to put it out. And then I had to go back and completely rework it and take out so much because it was, you remember, I mean, it still is such a sensitive subject, but I really, really thought and battled so much with myself and the people around me about whether to include those shots of the explosion and the destruction. But I didn't want to erase it. Like this, yes, we're all traumatized, and I know it's a big conversation and there isn't right or wrong, but I can't look back in 3 years, a song that's about 2020, and I'm completely, like we're pushing this under the rug because we don't want to talk about it. Like the editing of this was really such a tough job, and I'm very proud of it. And I studied every frame has like 4 or 5 meanings. Like if you really dig into it, and this was the beginning of the label. This was beginning of everything I have now. So I'm very grateful to that song.
All right, let's listen.
إننا نعترف أمام الوطن والناس أننا أخطأنا كثيرا بتفاؤلنا. صارت 2020 وانتك اخت البلد، صارت 2020 والليرة بالأرض وما بقى في دولار وسكروا المطار. شو حلو حظه اللي بيعيش بيها سنت القيو. صارت 2020 ونزلنا عالطريق وبلشت حريقة فاتورة كل دقيقة. جربنا 100 طريقة تعرفنا عالشبيحة. كورونا عالترويقة، كورونا كل دقيقة. بترول حينجينا ودق يا موسيقى. كورونا عالترويقة، كورونا كل دقيقة. بترول حينجينا ودق يا موسيقى. الليرة اللبنانية أصبحت نكتة على الألسن والناس افتقرت وجاعت.
قادر ضل بأرض هي مقبرة للأحلام.
صارت 2020 والوضع كتير تعتير. صارت 2020 والصنوبر أغلى شي وعالشمع عايشين وبالبنوك قاعدين. شو حلو حظه اللي بيعيش بيها السنت القيو. صارت 2020 ودورت التيفي وطفيت التيفي ولك شو هالمسرحية شو هالمصلحجية كلهم حرامية. وبدي كون مبسوطة وبدي كون فخورة وبدي أعيش قديرة ودقي يا موسيقى. كورونا عالترويقة، كورونا كل دقيقة. بترول حينجينا ودقي يا موسيقى.
من الدولة.
فالذين لم يموتوا ببطء من الفقر والجوع والقهر ماتوا بسرعة قياسية من الزلزال الهائل الذي ضرب قلب لبنان.
That frame started Mafi Budget. That أصلا Mafi Budget frame started everything. Yeah.
So good. How does it feel to perform this song?
How does it feel to perform the song? Okay, so the first few shows I did coming back, I had only put this out and Sharaf and maybe Sfiha. Yes, Sfiha and Sharaf. But it was the one that people knew the most. So everyone would be really excited to hear the album, but they weren't like familiar with it. But this song just gets everybody going. It's the first time I did a show in Paris. It was the first show back, and I wasn't at all sure. I hadn't performed in Paris before, so I really wasn't sure what to expect. But it was such a beautiful turnout, such a beautiful, diverse group of people. You had like expats, and you had immigrants, and you had Europeans that actually like the song, and I don't even know if they know what I'm saying, but like the whole room was like, you know, the Ayamusia, and they, you know, it's my favorite to do live in that sense. But the, you know, I produced this a really long time ago. Like I've changed a lot, not changed. I've developed a lot my sound more. So I've tweaked the live, like it has a much fatter bass, and the ending is dramatic, and there are strings, and I love doing it live. It's nice. People like wait for it, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely a crowd pleaser for sure. When you, I want to talk a little bit about the sort of virality for a second again. Because I wonder, especially after 2020 or 2019, there are like a conspicuous absence of role models in Lebanon, right? As you said, everyone's a thief, right? Everyone's a crook. كلهم يعني كلهم, everybody, right? Everyone is a crook.
Yeah.
And I wonder how it feels to sort of like, it's a corny question, but I actually legitimately wonder how it feels to be a role model. Like when people come up to you out on the street and I'm like, oh my God, it's amazing. You're saying what you're saying and having the courage to say what you're saying and doing what you're doing in a country, in a place that really suffers from lack of role models. What does that actually feel like?
And authenticity, and a lack of authenticity. I've realized that a lot of people do connect to what I do because of that specifically also. Like, I'm like, because I remember in the beginning, I didn't really get it, like the role model thing, or when people would send me messages that they're inspired by something I've done or say or me or whatever. Like I didn't really get it in the beginning, and because I was like, oh, I'm like expressing myself and telling my story, and I don't know how. Like, it really became clear to me that it was like, oh, people seeing me do my thing and being myself and being thriving in my own way, at least thriving in a really difficult environment. And I'm like the poster girl of everything that's supposed to be not acceptable where I am. So I guess that really makes people feel empowered, which is so humbling, so flattering. I don't like get attached to it at the same time, because when you take too much out of that, then your mental health kind of depends on that, and not everything you do, whether you're so proud of it or whether you believe it's your best work or not everybody's gonna always feel the same way about everything that you do. So it's one voice in the conversation, and I'm happy to be able to like inspire people to do whatever it is that they want to do, or just make them feel less alone in whatever moment they're having when they're listening to a song, because this music saved me from a lot and made me feel understood, and I hope that it does that to people. But yeah, I'm not like a cult leader or anything like that.
Oh, if that's the case, we'll update your bio, because we were gonna
No,
list
you
you
know,
as
like when you say role model, I'm like, whoa, you know.
But
yeah, I'm just doing me, you know, I'm really doing me.
Yeah.
Like, it's really important for me to do me, and I love that I inspire people to be themselves. I don't want anybody to like be like me or anything like that.
Yeah, that's true. It is a sort of unintended consequence though, right? Because
yeah,
there are going to be people who it's the catch-22 of being yourself, right? And being sort of like unapologetically authentic. It's contagious, and that people will be inspired by that, and they will miss it. They'll think, oh, I'm not inspired by your authenticity. I'm inspired by your actions, and so I'm going to actually replicate your actions instead of replicating your authenticity.
Exactly. This is what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's tricky. Okay, I want to ask you before we wrap up. We're recording this the first week of April. This is going to go live mid-April, towards the end of April. What is coming up? I mean, what are dates that people should be aware of? When does the album go live? How can people see you perform?
Yeah, so our big focus right now, my big focus, and even the label's big focus is the release of my album, which we are releasing through chapters. So each song will drop as, with its own story and video. And at the end, kind of the album gets completed. So there isn't like one date for the album. The next song, it's called Dabah. It's number 6. I think it's the one that comes after Big Champagne. And it's what the album kind of boils down to. It's when I decide to say, you know what, I've tried everything, I've done everything I thought I should do. I've been hurt and betrayed by my country and everybody around me, and I'm just deciding to be a villain and burn everything to the ground. So that's where we're going next.
Nice. Getting dark.
Yeah, it's getting dark before it gets, colorful and fun in the second part of the album. Yeah.
Very cool.
But I post everything that we're, working on my social media.
Yeah.
My name is Blu Fiefer, and the name of my label is Mafi Budget. Shout out to my team, my co-founder, Wasim, and afikra for having me.
Yeah. So people who are listening to the podcast, that is BLUFIEFER, and then Mafi Budget is MAFIBUDGET on everything. Blu, it's so fun talking to you about this. I love what you're doing. I am proud to have this music coming out of the city I live in, and I'm really proud that you guys are doing what you're doing.
Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. And thank you for having me. It was really a beautiful conversation.
Absolutely. Okay, everybody. We will see you next time.